And I think one big problem is like many beginners, they have a rook up and they want to keep winning material. But that
Correct.
shouldn't be the goal anymore. Learn the ideas, play the games, and when things go wrong or when you have the things in your game, then maybe you repeat the opening, the files.
Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard, and I'm very excited to be here with Grandmaster Noël Studer. You've seen him before in the channel. He's always helping us get to that next level, particularly if you're following his blog and if you're trying to get out of that beginner intermediate level. But today, he's actually here because he's tired of just having the blog. He finally put all of his knowledge together in one course, and I just wanted to present it to you. Feel free to check out the site, the project. If you think it's not for you, fine, but at least you checked it out, or you could recommend it to someone else. And I wanted to start by actually sharing with Noel some of the main problems I see in my beginner intermediate students, and then he'll see if he covered it in the course or not. If he didn't, I'm sure he's gonna find a way to add it. And if he did, well, he could tell us right up, or he could just start sharing what the course is about and where we could find this material and so on. So, without further ado, welcome aboard, Mr. Studer.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, before we start, any questions for me? Anything at all? Because I'm gonna be asking you questions now like crazy. Maybe you don't have time for anything.
I'm at the moment, I'm more trained in answering questions, so I'll let you do the hard task of asking the right questions.
All right, all right. So, well, the first question that I have for you is what made you want to work with beginners and intermediate or create content for beginners and intermediates? Because in my experience, grandmasters, I've had a few grandmasters that I've talked to because when I first started, I had a little company that would teach chess throughout Miami-Dade and Broward and so on. And I would try to hire people to help me out. And when I would reach out to a grandmaster, they'll be like, yeah, but I only want to work with either advanced students or talented students. And I was like, okay, fine. Because a lot of the students that I had, they were just, beginners with they were learning the basic checkmates and so on. So I'm really curious to know what got you into working mainly with beginner intermediate and if you enjoy it, because maybe you're doing it, but it's not really what you want to do at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So when I started my blog, it's now 3 years ago. I was, just sharing my knowledge of a grandmaster, right? I was still playing actively. I was, competing, and I was like, here's how you prepare like a grandmaster. Here's how you do
Huh.
this. Here's how you do that. So I was very much in the mindset of like, I'll help very strong amateur players and maybe other professional players as well. As a matter of fact, there are some 2700s actually subscribe to my newsletter still. So there are some very strong players, but what I realized is over the time, always more beginners said, that's very interesting. And I didn't really, think about them when I created content. I thought that that might help a FIDE master. And somebody like, hey, I've 800 on chess.com and it helped me so much. I was like, what? So then I continued and I did my first course, Next Level Training, which is about how to train, right? And I realized always more and more beginners are buying the course because they're overwhelmed. They don't really know what to train and so on. And a big part of the course is how to study, but then also great recommendations of like things that really like books or courses that really make a difference. And I know that they are super high quality. And they start asking me, what can I do as an 800, 700, 1000 rated online? And I said, well, I don't really have so many recommendations. So I start browsing around, reading books. I read like a couple dozen books, and I was like, I don't have one single thing that I think I love to recommend that. Like as a beginner, you need to have that. So after some time researching, I just said, let me just do it myself. So that's how beginner chess mastery got born. That I just felt like I want to recommend something I can fully stand behind, and I
Exactly.
felt like I can add something to the beginner market, and I actually enjoyed it a lot. It was very fun.
No, absolutely. And I see what you're saying because your name comes up a lot when I talk to my students, when I see the comments that they leave me on YouTube. they always mention your blog and how you present the information in such a digestible way. And that's the thing. A lot of grandmasters are great at playing, but they're not that great at presenting their knowledge, and people get overwhelmed. And another name that comes up a lot is Nakamura. I love Nakamura. It's so exciting. I watch him for 2 hours, but I cannot follow him. When I finish, it's like, what did I learn? Well, it's a different kind of content. But absolutely. Well, let me get straight to the point and let me ask you a few questions that I know my beginner students would ask. And then you tell me if you have something for them in your course or if you're working on it or not. So the first question that I have for you is, what do you do with someone, let's say, under 500 on chess.com, where in my experience, what they're trying to do mainly is not blunder pieces. And it's all about hanging pieces, like not blunder anything, or if your opponent leaves something hanging, they cannot see it. Of course, it has to do more with vision of the board, but how would you, is there anything specific that you recommend, or just play, 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 and then you're going to get better?
Well, I like to give people a certain guidance throughout the game, because what I realize is many, I think, speaking of these 500 players, they are just overwhelmed. They look at the board and they don't really know, like, what should I look at, which side? Like, they just, there's so much information and they're not used to that, right? And so I give them in the course questions they can ask during the game,
Hmm.
and that guide them through, like, okay, what do I have to think now? So the first question, for example, is like, what is my opponent's idea? So many beginners, I see that opponent plays a move and they just, well, whatever, I'll just move my bishop, right? But no,
Exactly.
first you want to check, what is your opponent actually attacking? Is there something changing in the position, right? Is your queen attacked? Well, then it would be good to move your queen. So just giving like those simple ways of understanding what's happening, and then focusing on simplicity, I think, is so important for everyone on beginner level. As you say, most games will be decided by hanging pieces. So you don't want to overcomplicate. You don't want to, analyze a game and see, oh, I could have played a little nuance better there, but I don't understand why. It's like, no, no, no. Check if you blundered a piece. And
Exactly.
if you didn't, that was a great game. If you did understand, what did you miss? Like, was it a long bishop diagonal? That's,
Perfect.
I don't know your experience, but my experience, like long diagonals, it's like, oops, I just
And
didn't see that
knights.
this piece.
And,
Yeah,
and,
knights
and
are
knights.
annoying.
Absolutely. No, no, no.
And
Perfect.
backward moves. I think those are very tricky as well. It's like, oh, this the queen can actually move backwards. Oh, so
Exactly. That's
yeah,
exactly.
my main goal is like to give beginners a way of understanding chess and like thinking through logically, and then to
Exactly.
build up these fundamentals step by step.
Perfect. Perfect. One funny thing is, and let me actually start showing your side here. By the way, is that you, right? That's you?
That's me. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. One thing that I tell a lot of the people who come to me at the beginner intermediate, I tell them, look, if you're under 1200 on chess.com, I'm confident that I can look at any game you have played. And before move number 20, either you or your opponent blundered a piece, just clean piece hanging. And so far it hasn't failed. We go to the games, any game. Someone left a pawn hanging, a piece hanging, and definitely that's a very important thing if you want to get to that next level. So that's one question that I had. And in a moment, I'm pretty sure you can show us more or less. Okay, if you're at that point under 500, maybe you want to start from the beginning or from here. The other question, Noel, is beginners. To be honest, even myself, sometimes we have the problem to that we cannot close games. So we're already winning. So okay, we got past um, that level where we cannot get ahead. Now we're very good at capturing pieces, but sometimes we're up a rook and we still lose the game at the end. So that was the other main question that I have for you. And of course, if you can share some tips or if you can show us exactly where someone should start in your course, that would be great.
So yeah, for starting the course in general, I would like for people to start at the beginning. But obviously, you right here, you see the rule section, right? This
Hmm.
is meant if you have a loved one or somebody you know and they don't play chess at all, then you can give them that course and they can actually learn the rules first. But for those that know the rules, you don't need to go through that. But then we have like a general outline of what is my idea of how you reach
Nice.
1200 online. Like, what time controls should you play, right? what things are useful for a beginner. And then there are three parts. Part number one is get a good position. So that's the idea of like know your pieces. Where is your bishop standing well? Where is your knight standing well? All these kind of things. That's nice knowledge that can help you guide through the game. You will find, some strategy. Here the bishop, then the rook, queen, all the pieces you'll get, and then you get the opening principles, very important as well, right? Just understand how to develop your pieces.
Let me
Look
ask
at,
you, because
yeah.
I went through the course before we met, and I like that you have it like that by piece. And actually, a lot of books that I have used in the past, they actually do it like that, right? Now, let's say I'm at 1,000 on chess.com. And by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but to me, it's a surprise that a 1,000 rated player on chess.com is not what it used to be 10 years ago.
Mm,
It's a different monster. So my question is, if I'm at 1,000 on chess.com and I'm struggling to get to 1,200, do you think I should go through that part, like the bishop, the rook, or should I just skip to 1.3 strategy, or what do you think?
I think there's still valuable information in there
Okay.
because most people don't start with the basics. Like
And,
that's
and
why
there
I
are
did this
gaps.
course, right? I want to really present the full, like that you're sure you have covered the basics. Because
Exactly.
I've seen actually 1,500 players study, the knight or the bishop because I gave it to testers and they were like, wait, I didn't know that. Like I have
Exactly.
1,500, but I have no clue. So
Exactly.
it can help. If you want the full picture, then take that. But obviously, you can study as you'd love. If you want to, for example, as you mentioned, if you have problems closing the game, so part number two would then be win material and checkmate.
Hmm.
And then part number three, right here, is simplify, promote, and checkmate. So the idea is first you get a good position, then when you have a good position, your opponent will offer you pieces or you force them into tactics, into things like that. You need to spot these opportunities. So you need to spot the right tactics. Once you
Exactly.
win the pieces, now your mindset should be, now I'm converting. And I think one big problem is like many beginners, they have a rook up and they want to keep winning material. But that
Correct.
shouldn't be the goal anymore, right? The goal is like, okay, I'm a rook up. Let me do equal trades. Let me
Exactly.
get to a simplified position. And then when I'm just a full rook up and the opponent only has a king, I'll just learn how to checkmate with a rook and king. And ta-da, that's a win. So you
Exactly.
really want to make the game simpler when you're up material. And that's what you learn here. So no style points, how to play when a piece up is like a general idea of what are you, thinking about when you're a piece up. And you can use it for the opposite as well. If your opponent is a piece up, you don't want to trade equally. You want to
Correct.
make
You do
the
the
game a
opposite.
mess. You want to make it difficult. You want to, do some crazy sacrifice or whatever comes to mind to just annoy the opponent.
Exactly. Exactly. Noel, can you open on one of those just for
Sure,
the
sure,
viewers to
sure.
see what?
So, for example, we can go here into the square rule,
Okay.
um, which we will just talk about how to promote a pawn when the king is far away, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes I'll have to check here. Sometimes you'll even find um, where are there are videos where you can also download some PDFs. So
Hmm.
you get like a things to think about or a summary of the pieces. For example, if you go up in the video, you find like pawn summary, and you can just see, okay, what's in a nutshell what you have to think about with your pawns, and then
Exactly.
what are your weaknesses, what can go wrong, right? So I want you not only to learn the things but really to apply all those things as well. And that's the main idea of the course, is that if you're below 1200 and you maybe already studied some beginner courses, right, you
Exactly.
might have some of the knowledge, you might have some gaps, but you might not be able to put it into practice. So what you
Exactly.
need is like, okay, the pawns are good like that, but how do I do it in the game? What questions do I ask myself so I can finally, I have a 2000 maybe puzzle rating on chess.com, but somehow your normal rating is 800. So how can you close that gap,
That
right?
guy.
How can you during the game think about the right tactics? So all these things I want to provide as well in the course. And in the end, right here, we can go down, down, down for those people interested. There's even a full beginner repertoire actually
Hmm.
in the course
With
included. You
openings.
just get that, exactly. You just get that as a bonus. And all of these, so you go to the Italian, you don't only watch the video, but you can just download the PGN
And then load it
and you
on any side you like, right?
exactly, and you just repeat whenever you feel
Hmm.
like. But one very important thing, in my opinion, I know you have a great beginner opening course as well, so I'm curious how you think about it. But for me, it's like learn the ideas, play the games, and when things go wrong or when you have the things in your game, then maybe you repeat the opening, the files. But don't
Absolutely.
just go and think, I need to memorize all the moves that Noel told me. No, that's not important. Important you know how to play. And once there is an issue, you go back, oh, wait a moment. What was it again that Noel said in this
That's
position?
exactly right. Yeah, and
And that's
I'm sorry. I always tell
go for it.
people that even if you magically memorize everything Noel tells you, everything he has on the openings, you're gonna forget it in a few days or when people don't play it because you won't get some lines. You're not gonna get them often. You're gonna forget. So I think that's the way to go. Just go over it, understand, review it once. The way it's there, you play it. You make mistakes. You come back and review again. And then after you make the same mistake 5 times, on the sixth time, that's it. That's yours already. So absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's very important. And when you have an emotional connection to something,
When you
you
suffer,
learn much better. You learn much better when you suffered. When somebody crushed you in an opening, then you're like, okay, now I really need to know, and you'll
exactly,
remember. But if
exactly.
it's just theoretical and you just watch, 1 hour of opening videos and you try to memorize, it's so hard to get that bulk of information. And
That's
just for
exactly
those saying like, hey, but I have already Robert's repertoire, I don't need any openings, don't worry. The course works without the opening. So
exactly,
in
exactly.
my opinion, you don't need a big opening knowledge to reach 1200. But what happens, many beginners think that their problem is openings. So what I did, I said, okay, guys, if you think it's your problem, I'll give a bonus. You
Exactly.
can you can go through it, but you don't have to. So for those already knowing opening or just don't liking opening or whatever, just ignore it. It's at the end of the course. You don't even need to look at it. You can just get the fundamentals, the knowledge, the skills,
What
and then
really
you can play
matters.
any
What
openings.
really matters.
Exactly.
But I did check out your course. I like it a lot. I think it's very well broken down, and people are gonna find it useful. I also know you're really good at providing support, so I know if they have any questions, they can reach out. And I don't know if there's of course I'm leaving the link. I'm gonna pin a comment. The first comment under this video is gonna be with the link to the site, also in the description. I don't know if there's something that people really cannot live without knowing, anything that we haven't covered. They already know the structure, what it is about. Is there anything that they really have to know?
I think what's important is that this course is just launching as we speak, basically, and there will be a 40% discount until Sunday midnight. If people have questions, just reach out. I think that's
Absolutely.
a great way to be in contact or to say, hey, can I whatever. If you bought the course and you liked it or didn't like whatever, just reach out to me. I like to learn from my students, from people, and I think that's all. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, my pleasure. And thanks for being with us like always. And we'll see you in the next one.
Really appreciate it. See ya.